Hello everyone, Strikoder here and welcome back to a new episode of Active Directory Hacking Lab. In this episode we're gonna learn about Mimikatz, what is Mimikatz, why do we use Mimikatz, and so on. So let's get started. First of all, be sure to run the first machine that we have. You can use whatever machine you want within or outside the lab that we've done. If you followed every episode that we've done, then feel free to run the first machine. After that, let me run a cmd and we're gonna install Mimikatz. So where do we install Mimikatz from? You can visit the over here my GitHub account, go to repositories and Windows binaries, within here to the exe, and you can see Mimikatz in here. After you install it, move it to your VM or install it directly to your VM. Then I'm gonna type certutil. That's a Windows, I would say a Windows program, but I've had a command here on my Linux VM that prints all the files with the certutil, so I would just only copy paste into the Windows machine that I have just to save some time. And over here it uses Tunnel 0, but since we don't use VPN, we are not using VPN, that's an internal lab, so it has nothing in here. However, I'm just gonna use, I'm just gonna copy paste into here. So here we need to provide 10.0.2.10, the Kali's IP, and I have Mimikatz installed. So just in case I want to save the CMD running over here, so I'm gonna browse from here, and where did we save it? In here, so that's Mimikatz. Make sure to run that as an administrator, and here we go. So what is Mimikatz? Mimikatz is just a program, a post-exploitation program that we use on Windows machines in order to dump either passwords, cleartext passwords, or NTLM v2 hashes, or maybe in few cases LM hashes, I believe, on old machines. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that if it does that or not. And the first question might come into your mind, why do we use Mimikatz? So on Linux, since we deal with Kali most of the time, you can use sekurlsa. So, but not with this. You can provide, let me see, secrets dump like this, and you can provide either a hash or a password and dump the same thing, not exactly the same thing. You can dump the NTLM v2 hashes from the machines. So why do we use Mimikatz? Okay, so Mimikatz dump more stuff than secrets dump. That's the first and the main issue. The second thing is if there is any clear text passwords, Mimikatz would be able to dump that from the memory. And there are few advantages over secrets dump. It has many attack vectors. We'll not cover all of that today because that's a very advanced topic. Not a very advanced, don't quote me on that either, but that's a little bit of advanced topic. It's not for our lab, and yep, that's it. That's why do we use Mimikatz. So if you have or if the question came up to your mind just like me 4 or 5 months ago, because I'm new to pen testing as well, you know, so just to let you know. And we start always by using version. However, you can use you can see over here x64. Since we are doing that on Windows 10, I don't think we have 32 version of Windows 10. On older versions, on older Windows machines like Windows 7 and before, you might get a 32, so you need to install the 32 version. However, we are satisfied with the 64 in our case. Then the first official command you would run is privilege debug to check that you have enough privileges to run all the commands. And I've seen in few videos, and I cannot recall which CTF player, he used the log command to save all the outputs into a log file. However, I don't use that often. I believe I've used that only once. Why? Because most of the time, whenever you get your initial foothold on a machine, you would type always net users, and you would see all the users available on that machine or in the domain. So most of the time, let's say we had an initial foothold into the VBox user. Of course, we need to get the administrator either hash or a clear text password. Let's say we had another user. Let's say this was an Apache user. So our attack vector would be, our initial foothold would be through VBox user. Then our attack vector would be pivoting into the Apache user, then getting into administrator. So that's why we don't have much stuff to do in a CTF realm, but in IRL, yeah, you can save them into a log file. What can we do as well? So first of all, the most command that you're gonna use in your like pen testing is sec url and sa. I don't know how people pronounce this. Sekurlsa. Many people just say sekurlsa. However, I prefer sekurlsa. Logon passwords. So you type that, and we see a lot of output printed back to us. I'm gonna start from the beginning. Oops, what's happening? Okay, so something's happening, something weird. Let me check again. So I'm gonna start from the end. What do we see here? We see, oops, let me clear the output, run that again, and now everything is okay. Maybe because I zoomed out. So we see authentication ID. We're not interested about that. Session, user name. So here is the user that we have information about, and here we see some stuff that we might be interested about. So the username VBox user has this NTLM. So with this hash, we can use best the hash attacks. I've not covered that yet, but it looks something like BK exec or BX exec. Let me check if I have something interesting in here. So something like that. So you provide, for instance, over here, VBox user. Let's check VBox user. And over here, 10, 0, 2, 16. Then pentest.local. We have local over here. I didn't pay attention to that. And you get the NTLM. I don't think that's gonna work. I'm gonna explain that later. We need this. So it didn't work, which is okay. That's fine. I just wanted to show you how to use the hash if we grabbed a hash. And here we see a little bit below crits, and we see an administrator and the domain. And here we see the password. So this is the password of the administrator. So here we are signed in as VBox user, but we got the administrator password of the pentest domain because he signed in into our machine with this credentials. And if he doesn't, or if the domain doesn't have labs, which I'm going to talk about that later, or if the administrator doesn't have different passwords on other machines, then we've got the administrator password. Later, a little bit below, let me check. So over here we see more info. What can we understand from that? So first of all, I would like to check. I don't really No, why is that happening? Like why it's turning red? Let me check again. I'm gonna run that as administrator. I'm gonna privilege debug that, then passwords. So over here we see a huge blob, which is okay. That's you can say a Kerberos ticket for the machine. We don't use anything related to the machines for a few reasons. First, because machines password and machine stuff changes every 30 days, and machine's password is extremely hard to crack. We can see the $sign to know that this is a user machine. This is not a user related to the domain or to the machine that we are signed into. And because the last reason, because most of the time services do not allow machines to authenticate. So we are interested in usernames that doesn't have the $sign at the end. So over here we're gonna skip over that. Over here we see, although we see lab finance with a $sign, but we skip the NTLM over here. So we skip all of that. All of that is not interesting. Here is the juicy stuff. That's what we're interested about. So that's about Mimikatz. As a beginner, that's what all we need. But I want to give the whole aspect of Mimikatz, what can we do with Mimikatz as well. So there is a thing called pass the ticket. So what does that mean? We make a ticket, and after we make the ticket, we take the ticket and we authenticate as the user that has the ticket. I'm gonna explain, I believe that in a separate video. Please let me know in the comment section if you are interested. For now, this command exports all the tickets that are saved in this machine. And let me check the directory. Oops, not here. I'm gonna change it into here. Have we? Let me check. We haven't exported them. Maybe because I don't have any tickets for now. So usually you would type that. You would have all the tickets exported. For instance, I have those tickets within where is it? The pin. Why can't I see the pin? So I have those tickets. This is the lab finance ticket. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna move that into here. So if you could dump any ticket, that's okay. If you couldn't, that's also okay. Why? Okay, please forgive me because it's been a while since I haven't used Windows as I'm gonna restore these. So these were deleted because the antivirus was active on a different machine, but if you repeated the lab with me, the antivirus should be deactivated by default on the domain. And here we see. So let's say, for instance, I'm gonna export one of the tickets. I saved the output of the ticket, the ticket's name, and we type this. So now I can authenticate as the lab finance. What can we do? For instance, we can try with this. So directory labdc and the C share or C folder, and we try to access. So if we have access, which oops, why it doesn't work? Because you don't run directory on here, you run that in here. So the username or password is incorrect because those have no authentication or have those machines have no authorization over the DC to check the C directory or the C folder. That's why we don't use the tickets from the machines, we use the tickets of the users that we have that we had when we enumerated. That's another reason. Usually you would try to reach another folder or another kind of service or something. That's for the past the ticket. There is a jargon or a thing called golden ticket. You do this, you run this to take the SID and the hash to use them below. But in our case, that's is not gonna work. So over here you see to use them below. Where do you mean to use them below? Over here in this command, you need to provide the SID. SID can be enumerated either through the RID brute forcing, through, for instance, netexec or the bloodhound if you watched the previous video. And here you provide the Kerberos table, the Kerberos ticket granting ticket, which we get from this command. However, that's not available in our lab. You can check hackthebox labs. I believe they have rooms about Active Directory attacks and golden tickets. So that's the other attack that you can do. You can do best the hash attack as well. So you can do something like that. You provide the path, then the user that you have the ticket for, that you have the hash for, the domain, for instance, in our case, it is pentest.local. Oops. So over here, it's gonna be pentest.local. You provide the NTLM hash that either you've gone from the sec URL cell logonpasswords, the first command that we run, or wherever you got the hash from, or you can, oops, not that. I wanted to showcase another thing. Or you can go into here and use the hash either with the bsexec or other attacks like adding a new computer and make delegation if you have generic all. You can use the RBC or get a ticket. As you can see here, there are a lot of stuff that you can do with hash. With hashes, you can use sekurlsa, as I've mentioned before, bsexec, wmiexec. So there are a lot of stuff to do with the hashes. One of them, the thing that, oops, where is it? The thing that we've experienced over here. So that's other thing. I'm gonna provide all the stuff in the, I believe it's gonna be in the description or on GitHub. I'm not sure yet, but you're gonna see them in the description. And what can we do as well? There is another attack called server ticket. So for server ticket, first of all, you start by using the lsadump and you specify a specific machine. Here we need the machine name. Why do we need a machine name? For instance, let's say we have a service account called Microsoft SQL. So you can use the service ticket attack in order to reach the Microsoft SQL and authenticate with that through Kerberos. So that another type of attacks you can use. And there is a few more attacks. One called DCShadow. So it's gonna be like this. Oops, let me check. Clear. So you type DCShadow and you provide the object, the target user that you try to shadow, and the attribute and value over here. I'm not gonna explain that because that a bit advanced. It's not in our course, it's not in the scope of this course. And you can use, last but not least, the DCSync attack. So you can use this attack to take over the whole domain, which is a great attack. You can, I believe, use the DCSync within, if I'm not mistaken, netexec smb-l. So here we see if we, let me check, sync. No, netexec doesn't provide any DCSync attacks, but there are a few stuff that related to Active Directory attack. I believe like LSASS, which dumps hashes as well. So let's try, for instance, smb nxc smb dash u. Why I don't have autocomplete nxc? So for instance, let's say our user is called vbox. I'm not sure, vbox user. And the password, it should be nxc smb. So I don't need the hash, I need the password. Yeah. And over here the password is gonna be abc 123 123 vbox user, and the IP is wrong. It's gonna be 10.0.2.16. So we don't have that. Dash d pentest.local. Still not correct. Maybe I believe it was 123. So yeah, you can, I cannot recall, we gonna use that in other episodes. So you can provide, for instance, the credentials over here, then provide -m, LSASS, and dump as if you are dumping through Mimikatz. However, that's not gonna be in today's episode. And yep, that's the most interesting attack that you're gonna use through Mimikatz. So that was it. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section, and see you next time.